July 14, 1996, two deputies set out for what was supposed to be a routine patrol along a quiet stretch of desert highway in Nevada. They never made it back. For 24 years, their disappearance haunted an entire department, their families, and everyone who'd ever driven that lonely road. No cruiser. No bodies. No answers. But in 2020, long after the case was forgotten, a construction crew uncovered something the desert had hidden for decades. The deputy's patrol car, perfectly preserved beneath the sand, the dashboard clock frozen at the exact minute they vanished. Tonight, we're diving deep into the chilling mystery known as the ghost cruiser of Highway 93, a case that still defies every explanation law enforcement has ever offered. Before we begin, please take a moment to support this channel. If you enjoy true crime mysteries and real-life disappearance cases, make sure to like this video, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell, so you'll never miss another story just like this one. Now, let's go back to where it all started. It was the summer of 1996, and the desert heat still clung to the cracked asphalt of Highway 93 long after sunset. The two-lane stretch cut straight through the Mojave, miles of nothing but sand, sagebrush, and silence. Deputy Mark Halpern and his new partner, Ryan Cole, were nearing the end of their late shift with the Lincoln County Sheriff's Department. The night had been uneventful, a few speeding tickets, a stranded motorist, and a report of distant gunfire that turned out to be fireworks from a ranch party. At 11:42 p.m., dispatch radioed them for what seemed like a minor call. Unit 24, report of an abandoned vehicle off Highway 93, near mile marker 117. Headlights on, doors open. Possible DUI or distress situation. Mark sighed, rubbing his eyes. Copy that. We're about 15 minutes out, he replied. Ryan glanced at his partner. Think it's another drunk who wandered into the desert? Mark gave a small grin. Probably. Still gotta check. Desert doesn't forgive mistakes. They cruised north under a sky littered with stars. The radio hissed occasionally with static, common out there, where radio towers barely reached. The patrol car's dashboard lights flickered faintly with every bump in the road. At 11:58 p.m., they spotted it, a pale blue pickup truck, half buried in the sand, headlights pointing into the dark. Ryan grabbed the flashlight and stepped out first. The desert air was still. No wind, no sound. Just the faint hum of the cruiser's engine. Sheriff's Department. Ryan called out. If you can hear us, make yourself known. No response. Mark circled the driver's side. The door was open, keys still in the ignition. On the seat, a wallet, half-empty water bottle, and a map of Nevada folded open. The name on the ID, Caleb Turner, 44 years old, from Las Vegas. Mark scanned the sand around them. No footprints leading away. Nothing disturbed. Ryan frowned. That's weird. Out here, even one step leaves a mark. They searched for over an hour, calling out, flashing their lights, but the desert remained silent. Finally, Mark radioed in. Dispatch, this is Unit 24. Vehicle's empty. We're marking it for tow and continuing north to finish patrol. But the dispatcher never answered. Only static. At 12:47 a.m., a trucker named Donnie Hughes passing through the area reported hearing police sirens. Then, minutes later, a loud bang echoing across the desert. At 1:03 a.m., another trucker saw a faint glow in the distance, a red and blue flash, followed by total darkness. By dawn, Unit 24 had gone completely silent. The last radio log, recorded automatically by the system, came in at 12:52 a.m. We're seeing something up ahead, lights in the distance. Might be. Then the line cut. No more transmissions. No distress call. No signal. By sunrise, backup units were combing the stretch of Highway 93. Sheriff William Keene, a veteran with 3 decades in the department, led the search himself. For the first 2 hours, the deputies thought they'd find the car stuck somewhere in the dunes. But when they reached mile marker 117, the exact spot of the last report, they found nothing. No cruiser. No tire tracks. Not even the abandoned pickup truck that had prompted the call. It was as if the desert had swallowed every trace of it. For weeks, search teams scoured a 25-mile radius with helicopters, ATVs, and dogs. They found no signs of a struggle, no footprints, no debris, only the endless desert and the wind that erased everything it touched. Both deputies' families were devastated. Mark's wife, Sarah Halpern, appeared on local news, begging for answers. He would never just disappear. He's a father, a husband. Someone knows something. Ryan's parents traveled from Utah, joining volunteers in the search. When reporters asked the sheriff if foul play was suspected, he hesitated before answering. "We don't rule anything out. But right now, we're looking at every possibility. Mechanical failure, disorientation, or something else entirely." Behind closed doors, the department was rattled. 2 deputies, gone without a trace, and a patrol car valued at over $40,000, simply vanished. The FBI got involved but quickly found themselves at a dead end. The area had no cameras, no phone reception, and no witnesses. Over the next few months, rumors began to spread among locals and truckers. Some said they'd seen strange lights hovering near the desert that night, like headlights in the sky. Others claimed to have heard voices over the radio frequencies, faint, distorted, calling for help. A drifter who passed through the area a week later reported seeing a black SUV parked by the highway at dawn, with no plates and tinted windows. When he slowed to look, it sped away into the desert. None of it led anywhere. By the fall of 1996, the department declared the case cold. Both deputies were officially presumed dead. Their families held funerals without bodies. The case was archived in a beige folder labeled Case #9607-24, Missing Deputies, Unit 24. But not everyone believed they were gone. Sheriff Keene continued to visit the area every few months. He'd park near mile marker 117 and sit quietly, staring into the sand. In 1998, 2 hikers found a fragment of a police siren cover buried in the dunes about 6 miles north of the highway. Forensics confirmed it came from a patrol cruiser, but that was all. No car. No bones. Then, for 24 years, nothing. The desert keeps its secrets. Locals learned to live with the mystery. Truckers passing through called that stretch the Ghost Mile. Some refused to drive it after midnight. The only thing that remained constant was the legend: 2 deputies, swallowed by the desert, never seen again. But then, in September 2020, a construction crew working near an old military test range stumbled upon something buried under the sand, just 3 miles from where Unit 24 was last heard. At first, they thought it was an old wreck. But when the sun hit the metal just right, one worker noticed a faint white marking, LCSO, barely visible under layers of dust. A sheriff's emblem. It took 3 hours to dig it out, and when they did, the crew froze. The vehicle was intact. The decals were faded, but legible. The doors were shut, the lights shattered, and inside, 2 dry, empty uniforms, still pinned with badges, resting in the front seats. The engine key was still in the ignition. The dashboard clock, 12:52 a.m. The exact minute the last transmission was sent. The desert doesn't change much in 24 years. The wind erases the past. The sand swallows what's left. But that morning in September 2020, something the desert had hidden for decades decided to come back. The construction crew who found the patrol car immediately called the sheriff's office in Lincoln County. Within an hour, the site was sealed off. Deputies arrived with tape, drones, and cameras. When Sheriff Daniel Keene Jr. stepped out of his truck, he froze. He was the son of the very man who'd led the original search in 1996. And now, standing before him, was the cruiser his father never found. "God," he muttered. "It's really them." The vehicle sat at an odd angle, half buried, like it had been swallowed and then spit out by the desert. The heat had peeled away the paint. The tires were melted flat. The inside was coated in sand so thick you could write your name in it. And yet, the contents hadn't aged as they should have. Inside the glove box were 2 notebooks, both sealed in plastic. Their pages were still white. In the trunk, a first aid kit, 2 unopened water bottles, and a metal case containing an old VHS tape labeled P93, Unit 24, July 14, 1996. The investigators knew immediately this was no ordinary recovery. The tape was sent to the forensics lab in Reno for restoration. It took 2 weeks before it could be viewed. When they played it back, the room fell silent. The timestamp showed 12:39 a.m., July 14, 1996, roughly 13 minutes before the deputies vanished. The video came from the cruiser's dashcam, grainy but clear enough to make out the desert road. Mark was driving. Ryan was in the passenger seat, shining a flashlight ahead. "Ryan, you seeing that?" Mark, "Yeah, lights up ahead. Looks like a car off the road." The camera shook slightly as the cruiser slowed. Then, a strange flicker, like static, but too rhythmic to be random. A moment later, the headlights illuminated a white object in the distance. Not a car. Not a person. Something else. The camera struggled to focus, then snapped to black for a full 5 seconds. When it came back, Mark's voice sounded distorted, like he was shouting underwater. "I can't. Radio's dead." The final frame showed the cruiser's interior bathed in pale blue light. Ryan's head turned toward the driver's window, eyes wide. Then, silence. The tape ended at 12:52 a.m. The exact time the cruiser's clock had frozen. The discovery reignited national interest. Major networks ran headlines. "Lost patrol car found after 24 years in Nevada desert." "Mystery of Deputies Halpern and Cole resurfaces after 2 decades." For the first time in years, both families were back in the public eye. Sarah Halpern, now in her 50s, appeared on camera again, holding her late husband's badge. "I don't care what they say. Something happened out there. And it wasn't an accident." Sheriff Keene Jr. promised a full forensic review. For 2 months, experts combed through every inch of the cruiser. They found no sign of forced entry, no fingerprints other than those of Mark and Ryan. No blood. No DNA. But one detail stood out. The sand under the car contained trace amounts of cesium and barium, elements typically found near military test sites. The coordinates of the recovery location placed the car just 2 miles from the restricted perimeter of an old facility known as Raven Rock Test Range. Officially, the range had been decommissioned since the early 1980s. But locals had other stories. Old-timers in nearby Ashford remembered seeing military trucks in the area weeks after the deputies vanished. A rancher named Clint Bowers, who had lived near the border of the test range since the 70s, told reporters. "They shut that whole stretch down for 2 days after them boys went missing. No explanation. Black choppers flying low. Then it all went quiet. like nothing ever happened. When the news resurfaced in 2020, he came forward again. You tell me how a cruiser disappears for 24 years and comes back looking like it just went under last week. Something ain't right. Investigators continued analyzing the cruiser for months. One of the strangest discoveries came from the onboard radar unit. It had stored a single data log from that night. The entry read, "Object detected, 41 miles per hour, 17 meters ahead, no heat signature." The system had recorded it at 12:51 a.m., 1 minute before contact was lost. Objects with no heat signature don't usually exist. Not in the middle of a desert night. While reviewing archived material from the original 1996 investigation, Sheriff Keene Jr. found something that wasn't in any official record, a handwritten note from his father, dated August 1996, labeled "Personal." It read, "Whatever happened to Mark and Ryan, it wasn't natural. The terrain was disturbed, but only in a circle, like heat fused the sand. I've seen that once before, back when the military tested radar absorption fields near Raven Rock. I was told never to speak of it." The note ended with a single line underlined twice. "If anyone ever finds the cruiser, tell them not to open the trunk." But the trunk had been opened, and inside was the tape. 2 months after the discovery, October 2020, a forensic technician named Lena Marlowe, who'd been handling evidence from the cruiser, failed to show up for work. Her car was found near the same stretch of highway. Her phone was on the passenger seat. Engine still running. She was never found. The department didn't release that information to the public, but word spread internally. Officers refused to go near the evidence site after dark. When the cruiser was finally moved to a secure facility for preservation, something else happened that defied explanation. Security footage from the evidence hangar showed the patrol car's dashboard lights flickering on by themselves at exactly 12:52 a.m. every night. The electrical system had been disconnected. The battery removed. Yet the dash lights pulsed once, then went dark, as though the vehicle itself remembered. In early 2021, Sheriff Keene Jr. released a final press statement. After extensive forensic analysis, the Lincoln County Sheriff's Department has determined that the recovered Unit 24 cruiser was indeed the same vehicle operated by Deputies Halpern and Cole in July 1996. No evidence of foul play or environmental cause for the disappearance has been established. The case will remain open pending further discoveries. We continue to honor their service and remember their sacrifice. It was a careful statement, one that revealed nothing and answered even less. Months later, a private audio lab volunteered to restore the final seconds of the last radio transmission from 1996. The recovered clip was only 5 seconds long, but what it contained left everyone unsettled. The static cleared just enough to make out a faint voice, Mark's, whispering, "They're not people." Then a sharp, metallic sound. And silence. Today, that stretch of Highway 93 is still avoided by many after midnight. Truckers say sometimes, if the night is clear enough, you can see the faint flash of red and blue lights miles off the road, and if you stop to look, they vanish into the sand. Local legend calls it the Ghost Cruiser of 93. But for the families of Mark Halpern and Ryan Cole, the story never became a legend. It's a wound that never closed, a mystery too cruel to fade. Sarah Halpern, now gray-haired and weary, still keeps a porch light on every night. "He promised me he'd always come back from patrol," she once said. "Maybe one day he will. Maybe he already did."